Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new edition of the Connected and Self-Driving Vehicle Meetup. We're really happy to be here with you today, and we're delighted to have Sébastien Ruffino as our guest speaker. Sébastien is Automotive Manager South Europe at NVIDIA, and we're really happy to us today. We're going to talk about the impact of AI and accelerated computing in the automotive industry. This is good content. This is the program today. The first hour is going to be dedicated to the keynote and questions and answer. This is where you'll be able to ask your questions to Sébastien. After this first part, we'll move to the networking session with the participants, meaning you'll be able to interact with each other. Also, you'll be able to discover and interact with our partners and exhibitors. Some useful tips to succeed this event: it is better to use Google Chrome and Firefox. The platform we're using works best with these browsers. It is best to turn off other video meeting software such as Zoom or Skype. Please turn them off so that you'll be able to enjoy this networking session later. It is better to use a headset and a microphone plugged to your computer. And also, please enter your profile information here on the right-hand side of the screen. You can enter your name, your company, and your picture so that the other participants can contact you. Do you have a technical problem? You can send a message to Xavier. Xavier in our team will take the time to answer your questions. Now, to ask your questions to Sébastien during the questions and answers, there is a chat area in the software where you can ask your questions. So please mention your name and mention one question. We will pick the questions, select the questions, and we will ask them to Sébastien. During the event, we're going to ask you questions with polls. So right now, there is a question for you. Where are you from? Please let us know in the polls area. How will the networking session work? There are two ways to connect with other participants. First, there is a networking area on the left-hand side of the screen where you'll be able to connect with one person with a video call. So when you're ready, press ready. So don't do it right now. We'll do it after the keynote with Sébastien. So after the keynote, when you're ready, press ready. The software will automatically connect you with somebody else in the event. Then you will be connected from 1 to 10 minutes with each participant, 10 minutes maximum. Introduce yourself, say where you're from, what you do, what you're looking for. You can exchange a business card directly within the software. Then at the end of the 10 minutes, the software will stop the conversation and you will be connected to somebody else. So this is really a random networking, such as in a conference. Now, if you'd like to terminate a conversation with somebody before the 10 minutes, you can do so by selecting leave, and the software will close the conversation, connect you with somebody else. So this is one way to network with us today. Another way is to go on the right-hand side of the software to the people's area. You can look at the different peoples who are connected, and you can connect with them. You can send them a text message, or you can send them a video call. Now, during the networking session, you'll be able to connect with our partners, Autonomy, Hogue & Co., Business France, and Alternova. This is a room, private room, where you'll be able to communicate with them. Now, let me introduce you our group. Since 2016, we've created and developed the Connected and Self-Driving Vehicle Meetup group in Paris. We've run 30 conferences and networking events with more than 2,000 participants, more than 100 speakers and experts, 28 sponsoring companies and partners. So today, if you join our group here on meetup.com, you will be one of the 2,700 professionals joining our group, and you will receive invitations to our next events. Also, by joining our group, you will be able to access to the content that we shared during our previous conferences. So the slides our speakers shared with us, also some video recording of our previous events. This is a sample of the speakers who have participated at our conferences from Toyota, Nissan, Intel, PSA Group, Renault, Navia, and today NVIDIA. So these are the types of speakers who participate at our events. These are our official partners who help us with our visibility. Leonard, the innovation department at Vinci Group, France Autotech, La Fabrique des Mobilités, Autonomy, the Urban Mobility Summit, Business Friends that you can meet and interact with later, and Le Square, the Renault Innovation Lab. Business Friends wanted me to communicate this opportunity for you. If you are a company developing technology for connected vehicles and self-driving vehicles, Business Friends will give you the opportunity to showcase your company at Las Vegas, at CES Las Vegas 2021. To do so, you need to apply to this opportunity with this web link. So after the keynote, you can go and talk to our friends at Business Friends in the expo area, and they can tell you more about it. So who are we? So we are a team of automotive engineers, entrepreneurs, business professionals, and innovation consultants. And we are here to help the community to grow, and we are here to help companies to make business together. So if you'd like to participate at one of our next events as a speaker, as a partner, as a sponsor, so please contact us, connect with us within our group at meetup.com, and we'll be happy to have a call with you. So now is the time to start the keynote session and the Q&A session with Sébastien. Sébastien has been influencing and driving innovation in the automotive industry since 1995. He started with plastics and mechatronics in Ficosa. Then he evangelized parking systems and the first connected devices with Cobra. Then he launched mass market navigation with Renault, Carmina, TomTom, as well as developing telematics and connected solutions with TomTom. Now, these past few years, Sébastien has been working on autonomous vehicles as Best Mile first, and now driving the future of mobility with NVIDIA, where he is responsible for automotive in South Europe. So now it's time to turn the microphone to Sébastien. Sébastien, we're happy to have you with us. Thank you for being here. And now is your turn.
Thank you so much, Laurent, for this introduction. Thank you also, Ludovic, Xavier, and Sabrina for the incredible energy you have been putting in making this meetup a reality. I've also been super pleased to see the interest from LinkedIn and my network on this topic, so I hope it's going to be interesting for you. Before we start, maybe just a quick introduction of NVIDIA. As you may know, NVIDIA is the inventor of the GPU. Since 25 years, we are actually helping companies to accelerate their business. What we mean by that is that we are helping them create innovative projects as fast as possible. Everything we are doing is at the intersection between graphics, HPC, and AI. And I think it's fair to say that we are kind of influencing the world of AI today and enabling data centers of tomorrow. Let me show you what's the agenda for today. I'm going to spend a bit of time bringing you up to speed on the latest and greatest, what's happening in GPU computing. I'm going to show you a quick video, 3 minutes, but super exciting about all the latest case studies around AI powered by NVIDIA. I'm going to also discuss with you what are the latest automotive trends and challenges that the industry is facing. I'd like to also browse certain examples of GPU utilization in the automotive industry, focus on autonomous driving and AI, and start to scratch the surface of what's going to be beyond 2025. When we talk about AI, actually it's a bit of a buzzword. Not everybody knows what's behind, so I would like just to bring that perspective. AI is not something new. It's actually something that started in the 40s with the first programmable computer. Started to increase with in the 80s with machine learning, where companies were starting to collect data, a lot of data, and trying to analyze the data. But it really started to explode in the past decade with the birth of deep learning. Deep learning algorithms actually help to take all this data, all those layers, and enable a computer so that it can take the right decision, make choices, and actually bring recommendations. The computer is becoming intelligent, and that's super exciting. When we look at the evolution of GPU computing, what you can see here in blue is the trend of compute power provided by a CPU. So you see it's kind of plateauing. And in the meantime, researchers need more, need much more. Let me take you an example. Let me give you an example, sorry. If you look at models like ResNet model compared to a BERT model today, in just 5 years, the need of compute has been multiplied by 3,000. A BERT model actually needs 3,000 times more compute than a ResNet model 5 years ago. It's immense, and the only way you can do that is by using GPU, because GPUs are unique. Because GPUs are providing hundreds of cores where you can create parallel processing. But it's not only about hardware, it's also about all the software, tools, library, frameworks that we are providing per vertical, per industry, where you can get the quintessence of GPU. And we are pretty proud because today we have around 1.6 million CUDA developers, and we have more than 5,000 startups that are part of our Inception program using GPUs every day. Deep learning is everywhere. You may not realize that, but in your everyday life, you are using AI application. Whether you browse on the net, go to the hospital, tag a picture of a friend on social, connect to your bank account, or use your car, you can be pretty sure that there will be a part of AI behind that. And that's why NVIDIA is so appealing today, because our GPUs are used in 8 of the 10 fastest computers in the world. We are in every cloud provider, used by every server maker. And in the same time, we are continuing to innovate. Our latest generation of GPU, Ampere, is providing an incredible leap, 20 times faster than the previous generation. And also more green, because actually when you use GPU, you actually use less wattage than what a CPU would be consuming in a data center. Let me show you some very exciting case studies with this video.
I am an explorer. Searching for the origins of our universe. And charting a safer path to other worlds. I am a helper, moving us forward one step at a time. giving voice to every emotion. I am a healer, modeling the future of medicine. And finding a needle in a haystack when every second counts. I am a visionary, uncovering masterpieces lost to the ages. And finding new adventures in a galaxy far, far away. I am a builder, driving perfection in everything we create. I am even the narrator of the story you are watching. And the composer of the music. And when the world faces its greatest challenge, I give us the power to take it on together. I am AI.
This video is so inspiring. I really love it. So many brilliant minds creating amazing projects. It's super. So let me start to dig into the automotive industry. The trends are in twofold. So you have the business trends and the tech trends. Let me start with business trends. Of course, we have seen that robotaxi is complex and may take a bit more time than we anticipated. But during the COVID, you have seen also incredible use of autonomous vehicles. You've probably seen the videos of the vehicles that were carrying drugs or carrying stuff between hospitals. I'm sure you were like me, buying a lot of stuff online. And the recent announcements about Amazon and Zoox is just an anticipation of what could be the future of retail and how the experience of delivery will be changing in the next few years. In France, we have been the pioneers of autonomous shuttles with Navia and EasyMine. With the evolution of city centers and the willingness from cities to reduce the number of cars, I'm pretty sure you will see more and more examples of autonomous on-demand transportation becoming a reality to complement or substitute some public transportation. Even on B2B, if you have a look at ports and airports, you have some amazing stuff happening. I encourage you to have a look to a company called Gossa, building some very heavy-duty vehicles, but all autonomous. Trucking industry is going also to reinvent itself. With the pain points that they are currently suffering, with the shortage of driver, with the issues of TCO and the need of increasing driving times, they have no other choice than innovating. And we are pretty pleased to be able to work with the industry leaders. Let me have a look now to the key trends that are happening in the auto industry. The first one is an incredible shift from hardware to software. Well, let's face the truth. Tesla has disrupted the market. They have shown us the way how a car can go from hardware to software and bring also new functionalities to the drivers and to the users. And this has been inspiring for also the rest of the automotive industry that is now embracing that direction. When you look at regulation, you can also expect that in the next coming years, there will be a fierce battle by car makers to achieve the 5 stars rating. And as a matter of fact, I think we can anticipate that the attachment rate of L2, L2 plus vehicles will be significantly growing, and we'll see the first implementation of L3. The other big trend we see is a trend towards centralized architecture. The highly distributed architectures that we have today, I really think are no longer sustainable for car makers. So many ECUs, so many suppliers, such big complexity, and actually such high cost. We are now able to prove that with a bigger brain, a bigger computer, of course a bit more expensive, you're actually able to reduce your TCO because you can integrate a number of different TCUs in that brain. We see two big brains appearing in the car, one for ADAS, AD, mechatronics, and the other one for the cockpit infotainment and interior user experience. This brings an unprecedented complexity. For OEMs, it can be overwhelming, especially for traditional OEMs, because if they want to cope with the innovations and with the trend where the industry is going, they will have to reinvent themselves and change their methodologies, their models, and maybe bring back some skills that they had lost to tier ones in the past. Regarding the tier ones, there will be here again a fierce battle, and there will be some big winners and probably some losers as well. So if we try to summarize the key challenges of the automotive industry today, the first one is how to accept the technology and reduce the time to market, because you don't have that much time left to be able to bring this technology. How to cope with R&D cuts, especially in those COVID times. 2020 will be the year of the budget cuts, but still have to innovate. How to gain competitiveness while managing TCO and satisfying regulation. Very exciting times ahead. Let me bring you now a couple of examples. Today I'm going to show you 6 examples from design to production, how GPU is being used. The first one is designers. We have a massive number of designers using GPU for real-time rendering, ray tracing, because they need to be able to make modifications to their model on real time. You've probably heard about PSA announcing that for their employees, instead of having 1 day per week working from home, now the rule will be 1 day per week in the office. If you want to cope with that, then it means that you need to adapt your infrastructure for remote workers. And that's why we see the benefit of virtual GPUs. We're also providing some dev kits. Driver GX platform is actually used in a lot of different robotaxi, but it's also used by tier ones to create exciting innovation. Like for Asia during CES this year, was able to show fully autonomous valet parking solution. Dealers will completely change the way they are interfacing with customers. You will see more and more realistic configurators that will increase the customer experience. You will not choose your car in the future as you did in the past. There is no way you can have all cars with all the different equipments. So you will use graphical images and very highly realistic rendering to be able to select your cars. In production, manufacturing 4.0 is, I think, the biggest trend and the trend that is going to show the fastest ROI. Here I want to show you an example of a French company, a French startup called Proof Station. So they have a big gateway with a lot of cameras, and in 3 seconds, they are able to provide a full report of the car and identify scratches up to the millimeter. The manufacturing, in order to increase the quality and the efficiency, will have to continue to really embrace AI. Finally, we are also in serial production. Our SoCs are being used in cars, and the latest announcement we had was with Explain, using our Xavier SoC to provide autonomous driving functionalities as well as enhanced user experience. Automated cars really have a lot of things to learn. When you look at the different situations, the weather, the environment, how to cope with certain situations, it is really highly complex. And in order to be able to have a vehicle that is intelligent enough to be able to handle those situations, you actually need to make sure that you have an end-to-end implementation. Because it's the combination of hardware, software, and infrastructure, whether it's proprietary or with partners, but it's the end-to-end platform that will make you a successful product. So let's start with hardware. Towards December last year, we have introduced our 5th generation, RA. And for automotive, it's actually the most complex SoC we've ever seen. 17 billion transistors and a compute power that is unseen in the market. But again, it's not only about compute, it's also about scalability. And the RA family is very scalable. It's capable of providing you a solution for ADAS in a 5 watt 10 tops envelope, up to a full robotaxi solution, and all that using the same scalable architecture, same software. That's actually what customers need, because they cannot afford to have multiple developments in parallel. Software is, I think, also very important, and you need to have a complete stack capable of supplying all the different requirements related to an autonomous vehicle. Our drive AV stack is about 20 million lines of code, and what we see is that it's about AD ADAS with drive AV, but it's also about driver monitoring system, occupant monitoring system, increased cockpit experience that can be delivered with drive AVs. Recently, we have also added our remote control capability when you have highly automated vehicles, like delivery vehicles or robotaxis that you need to get access remotely. And all this is using a lot of DNNs. But the beauty is when you take those DNNs, combine them together, and provide what we call perception. So this is an example of our perception, where you see bounding boxes with the cars, you see the lanes, you see paths, you see the traffic signs, and all those informations needs to be available so that the brain of the car can take a decision in a split second, take the best decision at the best time. Regarding the infrastructure, what you need to be able to implement is a continuous improvement, a continuous integration and continuous development. We are today collecting petabytes of data per day, doing a lot of activities in developing the DNNs, labeling with thousands of labelers, working on our software and simulating. Actually, simulation is one of the areas of growth that is very interesting, where you can use actually synthetic data, graphical images, to train your hardware. And that's what we call software in the loop and hardware in the loop. And that's a key trend moving forward, because it reduced the number of kilometers you're going to drive with a real car. So what's going to be next? There are 3 key factors. Vehicles will be becoming more and more autonomous. When the train has left the station, there is no way it will come back to the same station. So the train has left the station for autonomous vehicles. It may take longer, but you will see more autonomous and a lot of new vehicles appearing. Connected vehicles will be appearing in a very wide number of forms. You will see delivery, you will see transport, B2B, a lot of new implementation will take place. And finally, when you have a higher level of autonomy, your customer experience is going to completely change, because you're not driving. So when you're not driving, what are you going to do? You will probably need the help of conversational AI assistants and recommenders embedded in the cockpit to be able to have to ensure you a better journey and a better journey. So if I'm trying to conclude here, I think the automotive industry is going through its biggest challenge ever. It's going to be with a lot of changes. You will see a lot of fights, but what is clear is that in order to be successful, people, tier ones, car makers, and industry players will have to collaborate together and create a valuable ecosystem. That's all for today. Thank you so much.
Hello, Sébastien.
Hi.
Thank you very much for the presentation. So hi everybody, I'm Ludovic. I will be basically moderating the questions with Sébastien. Somebody's telling me that on the poll section we have some interesting things as well. So basically, what you can do if you have questions is ask your questions on the chat on the stage, and then I'll transfer the question to Sébastien, and he can answer those. Actually, I already have many questions for him, so let's get started. So the first question is very it's happening this week basically. Yesterday, your CEO in a press conference announced a significant partnership with Mercedes. So can you tell us a bit more about that? What is the announcement about, and what's the how does it relate to the market?
Yeah, sure, Ludovic. Actually, I'm so excited. You know, I was looking at that press conference and I was just smiling all along. If you have followed my webinar, actually, the partnership that we have been announcing with Mercedes is summarizing everything I've been saying in that webinar. It's probably the biggest automotive announcement and collaboration to date. So what we have announced is that we are entering into a strategic collaboration to deliver the most advanced and sophisticated computing platform ever deployed in an automotive. So we together bring the state-of-the-art technology. What I think is interesting here is that we are not talking about a newcomer. It's not a Lucid, a Karma, a Tesla. We are talking here about Mercedes and its entire fleet. And what has been announced is that we are going to work very closely together in a central architecture, software-defined and up-to-date. You know, I've been evangelizing the automotive industry in the past year, bringing that message that to be able to be competitive in the future, you need to have new partnerships in place, and you need to consider software-defined cars and central architecture. But actually, the announcement yesterday was everything that I would wish really happening in reality. And I think it's a very interesting sign that things are changing and that it's probably going to have a domino effect in the coming months or year.
Excellent. I put my microphone on because I think there is a bit of an echo there. And I think there is, actually there's one question from Yao. Hello, Yao. Thanks for joining. And she's asking if you also have a partnership with BMW.
The announcement we made yesterday is related to Mercedes. As you may have seen during that press conference, Ola was actually commented that the relationship with BMW was paused because they had a different calendar in the execution. And we cannot really comment for Daimler and BMW, but what I can tell you is that the announcement that was yesterday was mainly with Mercedes.
Okay, and somebody else is asking about Volkswagen. So any comments on that?
I'm not aware about an announcement with Volkswagen yet, but I wish I would hear that fast.
Excellent, excellent. I have one question. In your presentation, you are speaking about a major change in the industry, which is the centralization of the architecture, computing architecture in the car from many ECUs to a reduced number. So if we look at that, I guess that this will mean a lot of changes in the industry in terms of the number of partners working on with the OEMs.
Yeah, I think what is clear today is that the electronic architecture of a vehicle is highly complex. And the validation of that architecture is even more complex. And when you want to bring innovation or have a scalability, it's pretty impossible to do because of the distributed architecture. So what we see indeed is a trend where there are big computers that are integrating, or what I call up integrating, different ECUs. And this can have a lot of different flavors. You have some people that are integrating, for example, DMS, driver monitoring system, in a central compute, others that will be integrating that in a cockpit. So there is not one rule, but the big trend we see is that really centralized computers and biggest computers are happening. And that's actually why NVIDIA is becoming more and more appealing, because everything we are doing is about heavy computational hardware. And I think this is really raising interest from the car industry. And by the way, if I come back to the Daimler announcement, part of the Daimler announcement was, of course, that Daimler is going to use our drive Orin, our drive AV, and our infrastructure. So, you know, it's a combination, as I mentioned, about hardware, software, and infrastructure that makes it possible to have a vehicle that is intelligent and capable to be updated and future-proof.
Yeah, regarding that, there's a question from the audience actually about what you do in terms of software. So the question from Mark is part of the announcement regarding Daimler related to software. Is NVIDIA building a software business or just developing software to support your hardware? Is there a full software business or just more software to support the hardware?
Yeah, what I was trying to bring in my presentation is that it's not only about hardware. If you don't have the software to get the quintessence of your products, you only get a part of it. So we have been bringing some frameworks that are industry or verticals related. We have been working with Clara, for example, for healthcare. BMW is using Isaac for robotics and their manufacturing lines. And in that case, what we are talking with Mercedes is the use of our Drive AV stack, which is our complete stack for autonomous driving.
Excellent. In terms of the partnership, let's continue with that because there are some questions about it. Obviously, you have partnership with OEMs. Mercedes is an example of that. But what about the companies like somebody's mentioning Faurecia or Valeo or some other tier 1, tier 2 in the industry?
Yeah, so let me be clear. I mean, it's about an ecosystem. What I've been trying to evangelize in my presentation is that not everybody is going to do everything. And it's a combination of different skills. We are not a tier 1. We are going to work in what we call a triangle model, where there is the OEM, the tier 1, and the technological partner. So we are taking the hat of the technological partner, but we have to work closely with tier 1s. Valeo, Faurecia, we have, as you know, a lot of partnerships announced with ZF, Conti, Bosch. We are working with everybody in the industry. But if I just come back to Daimler, what is interesting is that Daimler took the decision to really change the way they are developing cars into a unique model where it's about collaboration. We are going to work together, co-develop in certain cases. And this is where I see that it's a big trend in the future. Because, you know, as I mentioned, Tesla disrupted the market. There is no way back. You need to collaborate with tech leaders and an industry partner to make sure that the industry of tomorrow is going to be future-proof and bring to the customers the cars that they need.
Good point. So about the car, I mean, obviously Mercedes, it's a premium brand, quite expensive cars. There's one question regarding reducing costs on democratizing your technology beyond a premium vehicle and into mass market adoption.
Yeah.
So is it something you see in the future? That's really the
Absolutely.
Question.
That's our essence. I mean, Daimler, of course, is a premium car maker, but the entire fleet of vehicles goes from entry to high. We are not here talking only about high and premium vehicles. We are talking about Mercedes' entire fleet. And when you look at mass market manufacturers, I think it's especially interesting for the French ones. We have been bringing, as I mentioned in my presentation, our drive Orin new SoC, which is the 5th generation. And it goes from ADAS, windshield front cameras, 5-watt envelope, 10 tops, up to robotaxi. But we have an entire family that can cope with the different customer needs. So clearly, we are not there just to look at premium, just to look about niche. We are looking into mass and working very closely with the automotive industry to deliver the innovation that the automotive industry needs.
Excellent. So actually, there's a question from Mathieu, which is kind of a follow-up about what you talked about earlier about the centralized architecture. Is asking what is the strategy of NVIDIA concerning redundancy and safety. So of course, if you have less computing centers, the question of redundancy is important. So what's your answer to that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, when we are looking at the autonomous vehicle, the first thing that comes to mind is safety and security. And of course, this is our first priority. We have been the first one to get TÜV certification on our Xavier SoC. We are working very closely. We have some safety and security concepts that we are discussing with car makers, also listening a lot to car makers and to their strategy. So there is no doubt that this is part of our value proposition. We have strong opinions, a lot of added value, and we are working also with industry partners.
Excellent. So there is a bit more technical question from Yahoo. I wonder if your deep learning platform is a correlation of historical and real-time data. So historical, real-time, or just
yeah. So AI is based on training and inference. So in order to create a DNN, you need to get a lot of data and train your neural network so that they can get some inputs, and then you have the inference that is taking decisions and taking the right decisions at the right time. So you need to have a lot of data. Actually, when we're talking about data, we are collecting in our BB8. So BB8 is our autonomous vehicle. We are collecting around 1.6 petabytes per day, around 10 petabytes per week of data. So there is a lot of collection that helps us to create the DNNs and so on that are used for the continuous integration and continuous development. But the car needs to be able to react in real time. So everything that we are doing has to work in a fraction of a second in the vehicle. And that's why you need computers that are so high performance in terms of compute power. Because you need to treat all that information, all those DNNs, and take the right decision at the right moment. So it's a mix of historic and real.
Okay. Another question from Jean Bernard, actually, is asking, because of the cost of autonomous driving, do you see a trend for automakers to provide services in the car, and to provide entertainment like Netflix or some other things in the car while you are not driving, so you have time to do other things and potentially to generate revenue from that?
Absolutely. So that was also part of the announcement we had yesterday. When you're talking about a software-defined car, it's a car that is going to constantly update, bring new features, new functionalities, new services. And today you are buying a car at the dealer because you like the envelope, you like the options and so on. But when you've bought the car, basically you've bought the car. Sometimes you don't even update your navigation and you keep your big DVD inside your car. This is over. I mean, the way people are going to consume cars in the future is going to drastically change. And car makers know that because all the information about market are showing that the number of cars is going to be reduced in the future. So you need to increase your ARPU, average revenue per unit. The only way you can do that is actually by turning your car into a software-defined vehicle, like a smartphone on wheels, if you wish. Think about your printer at home. You pay $59 for the printer, and then you pay the ink. That may be going to be a model in the future.
If we look specifically about autonomous driving, today, do you already have customers with cars on the road, or even if it's not completely autonomous, but what are the customers that are already using the solution today with vehicles on the road?
Yeah, I can only comment about the ones we have announced. So I keep some secret in my pockets. But you know, we started the autonomous driving activities back in 2011 with Tesla. Remember that we have been the first hardware powering the first autonomous vehicles. Tesla then made a different strategy, and that's fine. They may still be using a lot of GPUs elsewhere, but we have been there, and it's a continuous investment over the past few years. We have announced Volvo in Europe. We have announced the collaboration with tier ones like ZF, Conti globally. We have announced collaboration with Toyota Research Institute in Japan. We are actually working, we have announced last month, or 1 month and a half ago, a collaboration with XPeng in China that is going to use our drive Xavier. And yesterday, the announcement with Daimler is actually a global strategic deal that will work on all the different areas of the world. And in the US, you're probably aware that we have also a collaboration running with Daimler and Bosch with some robotaxi implementations.
And obviously, we talk a lot about cars with passengers, but you mentioned in your presentation a number of use cases where basically you use it for delivery, for example, last mile delivery. Are there any customer in that area with products in the field today?
Look, we are the de facto platform for when you're talking about robotaxi or autonomous vehicles. We are used in about 80% of all the robotaxi implementations globally. All the big ones, all the small ones are kind of using GPU at the moment in time because AI is part of that, of the essence of those autonomous vehicles or vehicles having to take some decisions or make choices. So we see a lot of those. Enride is one. You have in France, we have been talking about Navia and Easymail. You have a lot of initiatives. There was Pony AI in the US recently. We are working with Trust AI. You remember? I will check that name. But in tracking, there are plenty of that. Just a figure. We have around 370 partners in our ecosystem. 370 companies that are sensor, software, hardware, startups that are working with us in the automotive industry.
Perfect. So one more question from Johan. Hello, Johan. You mentioned hardware and software are more and more separated. Where do you see the roles of the tier one in that separation between hardware and software?
I think the RACIC, the responsibility matrix, is key. And that depends very much at the end on the OEM choice. It's the OEM that needs to define how partners are going to work together. We may have some ideas, but at the end, it's the setup that will be worked out collectively with the car manufacturer. That will be the law. And we are working in very complex RACICs with number of tier ones, number of software partners in different cases. There is not one example. There are multiple examples. But I think what is important is to be open enough, flexible enough to take the responsibility to make it happen. And that's all about NVIDIA. We are not a black box. We are an open platform software company. And we just want one thing, is to change the world when it regards to autonomous driving. And one thing that we have not mentioned, we are talking a lot about autonomous vehicles, but AI in general, if you look at the French manufacturers today, they are not that much into AI. And I think there will be a growing path with manufacturing, with dealers, with everything I've been presenting. There is a big path and big improvement area by using AI, not only in autonomous vehicles.
Another question from Xavier. Are you proposing new use case for computing in cars that the OEM might have not imagined to be possible with only onboard computation? So new use case that basically because also you are a company that is producing product outside of the automotive industry, maybe you could bring to the car? I think it's part of the question.
Yeah, I'm not sure I get completely the question, but I will reply it like that. We are having a lot of discussions with car makers about what functionalities and features can be brought to the market. We are not at a stage where already all the features we are proposing are being used. Let me give you an example. With our Drive iX suite, we propose occupant monitoring systems, cockpit assistance, the merge between interior and exterior, additional user experience. There is a lot of things that are not already used because it may not be part of the primary focus of car makers today. Some car makers are currently just looking at NCAP and making sure that they get their rating. So be compliant, not for mandatorily provide an enhanced user experience. On our side, of course, we are bringing a lot of new ideas. We have recently announced, the RC compatibility, a remote control. Imagine that you have an autonomous delivery vehicle or an autonomous shuttle, and there is an issue on the road and you need to take remote control. That's a very interesting feature that could be part of the everyday life of operators that will be using that. You mentioned that there was maybe Transdev attending today. I'm very eager to have some discussion with Transdev on that. So, and moving forward, yes, there are a lot of things we have in mind that we can bring into the game. In all our expertise around graphics, HPC, AI can create some super exciting functionalities. If you have seen in the video, I mean, there is no limits, there is no boundaries. It's only about how can we bring that into the car? And for that, you need to have a centralized software-defined architecture.
Perfect. So obviously, we would have this conversation 6 months ago. Potentially, the situation is a bit different. So now we are not really post-COVID, by the way, but the problem is there. We have seen in the recent weeks many announcements from car makers that are trying to reduce their costs and so on. So it's a tough moment for the automotive industry. What do you expect to be the consequence of those for self-driving cars? Do you think there will be some delays, or do you think that the car makers, depending on whether they're premium or not, on some other reasoning, that some programs will be delayed?
So the COVID has had some impact on the product plans of car makers, sure. So you can expect some delays in the introduction of the next generation platforms. That's granted. I mean, you can't replace the time that you've lost. So there will be some delays. Regarding the investment, you're talking about risk and so on. I'm seeing opportunities, because when you have limited investment, but such a pressure from the industry and from everything that is happening around, there is no other way. You need to continue to innovate. So you need to pick up your battle and define where you want to get your investment. With a centralized architecture, with AI, we can help car manufacturers to reduce their cost, reduce their TCO. We can help them to provide something that is more scalable. So something that they will not have in the next generation to reinvent the wheel and start from scratch. Because this is what is happening. From one generation to another, brand new investment from scratch. Car makers are looking at NPV, net present value, which is the value generated over the duration of the vehicle from the beginning of the development. We can significantly reduce that. So I really encourage car maker to give me a buzz. I mean, in my presentation, you have my number and my email. Give me a call. I'm happy to discuss about that. We are an opportunity. We are willing to partner with the automotive industry and help the industry get more efficient.
So obviously, we'll make the presentation available to everybody. So what Sébastien just mentioned, you will have his contact detail as well. I guess he will be also participating in the networking later on, so you can try to buzz him that way. But I think now it's almost 6. So it's time to move forward, and I'll leave the stage. Sébastien remain here, but Laurent has just joined us. So Laurent, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Sébastien. Thank you, Ludovic, for this great session. A lot of content was shared, and we're really appreciative of that. So thank you very much to the both of you. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Now is the time to move to the next stage of the event that we're used to do at our meetups. It's the networking session. Now we're testing online networking. How do we do that? That's a great question. So we're trying this new way here. Let me show you. There are two ways to connect with other participants. First, you can go to the right-hand side of the screen. You'll see the list of participants. You can connect with them, send them a text message, and even request a video call if you wish. Now, there is another way that is very innovative. Just like in a conference where you would meet somebody randomly, this is something we can do here. So you go on the left-hand side of the window here, of the screen, there's the networking area. When you're in this area and you're ready, you can press ready. When you do that, it will ask you to open your webcam and your microphone, and it will connect you to somebody randomly in the event. You will have from 1 to 10 minutes to chat. Introduce yourself, tell where you're from, who you are, what you're looking for. You can exchange a business card for 10 minutes maximum, then it will automatically connect you with somebody else. If you desire to leave a meeting because there is no fit, there is no match, you can leave the meeting and it will connect you with somebody else automatically. So this is the way to do networking after COVID, and right now we're testing. There's something else you can do is you can go to the expo area, just like in the trade show, and you can talk with our exhibitors and partners, Autonomy, Hogan Co., Business Friends, Alternova. You can just have a chat with them, send them a text message, or even a video call to discover what they're doing and see if you can do business together. So that's it. Thank you very much, Sébastien, NVIDIA, Ludovic, Xavier, and our partners. Thank you to all participants. So now is the time to jump onto the networking session. So I wish you a great time, and we'll be very happy to hear your feedback from that. So thank you very much. You have a great evening.